Good evening, everybody. We are coming at you live from the Liminal Pines. I'm back. I'm here. I haven't left the face of this earth quite yet. I'm still kicking. The drink of choice today, it's regular coffee with a pecan creamer. Or it's like a butter pecan. Something analogous to that. Again, good evening, everyone. Yeah. So this stream doesn't necessarily have a theme. Well, it does have a theme. The theme is that we're drawing. But is there going to be anything specific? No. I feel as if for the past few streams, I've been trying to take on that mentor role, maybe just a little bit too much. And I have to remember that I'm still like a beginner and I'm still learning. So I need to sort of act as if that's the case. I also need to find a way to to banter. Not only with myself, but with other people. And when I'm just doing anatomy stuff, it's kind of hard to do that. Because when you're drawing bodies, there's not much to talk about. So we might draw some bodies. Today we might draw some legs. I might do some drawing on my my thingamabop right here. I'm working on a larger piece. It's a piece of character art of All for One from My Hero Academia, so I can show you that. And if you're in the Discord, I posted it a few days ago showing that I was working on it. And I haven't worked on it since because I'm lazy. So them's the breaks. That's what we're getting up to today. Before we begin, I want to give a movie review. Okay, I'm gonna give two movie reviews actually. Recently I watched two movies, and these I believe were both on Quentin Tarantino's top 10 movies of the 2010s or whatever the hell he was talking about. So I was like, okay, let's go ahead and give them a watch. The first movie was Minions, which was it 2016? Something's telling me in my mind Minions came out in 2016. So we're just going to say it came out in 2016. Minions 1, a little bit of a preamble. I like Despicable Me 1. Last time I watched Despicable Me, the first Despicable Me #1, Mr. Despicable Me. I watched it on YouTube for free with ads, but I didn't watch it like as like a movie. A channel had just posted the entire movie in a series of like 10-minute segments, and that was a great way to watch the movie. I think it was a little blurry, the audio was a little compressed, and I think it was like the frame was like shifted a little bit, so it wasn't the correct aspect ratio. But I don't know, man, that's some high cinema right there. But I like Despicable Me. I would even go as far to say I like Despicable Me too. So I haven't seen the third one, and I definitely haven't seen the fourth one. I'm the biggest Minion head. Okay, I love the Minions. I'm not a millennial, and I'm not a boomer. They love the Minions, but like I'm the representative of Minions. I'm the Gen Z representative for Minions. Okay, I love the Minions. I think they're funny. I think they're quirky. I love Minion memes where it's like, don't talk to me until I've had a glass of wine. I think that's funny. I like Minion memes where all like I ran over my grandfather with my Toyota. My 2003 Toyota Corolla. That's funny stuff. Okay. That being said, okay, I know, it's a lot. That's a lot to take in all at once. Minions 1, I thought it was all right. It was just all right. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the framing of the movie, where it's just the minions are kind of just looking for an evil person to follow. And my favorite part about the Minions movie is that part of the plot involves them getting locked in or going to like an ice cave after they kill Napoleon. And the only reason that's part of the movie is to canonically explain why the Minions did not go and like serve under Hitler, because they would have, right? I think we're past arguing whether or not that would have happened. The Minions gladly would have operated under the Third Reich, and that's problematic for a children's cartoon and for business in general. So they get trapped in an ice cave, and then the movie follows three minions, and they're going off, and they're looking for a new evil person to follow. And it kind of just, it meanders after that point. They kind of goof off a little. The minions, they let their butts hang out. Okay, they wear overalls. It's a real Solo situation where they have to explain how they got all their iconic stuff. So they find their iconic like blue overalls, and yeah, the movie's not like, I guess maybe it would be funny to a kid. I remembered the movie being more annoying, and I guess that's the biggest compliment I can give it. It's like I remember the movie being more annoying. But then I would give Minions 1 like a 5 out of 10, which if we're going on the reviewometer, that's middling in a good way, or not in a good way. It's average. That's base average. It's like, this is just, it's a movie. I was entertained for some of it. I wasn't floored, and I wasn't like overly mad at it. Minions 2. Where do I start? Minions 2, The Secret of Gru, The Last Crusade. Minions 2, Temple of Gru. Minions 2, Raiders of the Lost Gru. Minions 2, Kingdom of the Crystal Gru. Minions 2, The Gru of Grustiny. I was going to say Spider-Man 2, but that doesn't have a subtitle. So it would be Spider-Man, Minions 2, Spider-Man Gru. The movie starts off promising like it's going to have a bit more of a plot, and I guess it does. But it kind of just, it feels like less of a movie. If the first movie was just a string of sort of just like humorous scenarios that had some Minions characters in it, then this movie is a string of weird scenarios that doesn't really involve the Minions all that much. And I'm sorry to say it, but Quentin Tarantino was not cooking when he made that list, because he put Minions 2 above Minions 1, and I think that Minions 2 belongs underneath Minions 1. It follows what the subtitle says. It follows the rise of Gru. It's Gru when he's a kid, when he was just a youngin. It was Gru when he was just a wee single-celled organism growing to a big guy. And I don't know. I did not find the narrative compelling. There's a villain league, which is fun. But like they're kind of generic bad people, which I don't know. I'm not expecting like crazily written characters, but even as like archetypal characters, I feel like they didn't really like bring anything. I didn't find them interesting at all. Then there's one character that's part of the villain crew that gets sort of like kicked off of the team, and Gru sort of sees him as a mentor, and they form a little relationship, which is cute and all. But again, like I don't care. It's like a 70-year-old man that knows how to beat people up well. I didn't find that compelling at all. In the Minions, they're not even half the movie. This movie should have been called Despicably Me, Only Me, Despicably Me 5. Subtitle, Gru when he was a kid. Despicably my Despicable Me 5 when Gru was a kid. And the Minions are there a little bit. Because they're learning karate. They're off learning karate, and not even like in a fun, interesting way. They have a montage, and I see what they were going for. They were going for sort of that campy kung fu montage style kind of, you know, it's giving Jackie Chan, it's giving, I don't know very many martial arts movies. It's giving Bruce Lee. And I just did not find that compelling at all. Because, I mean, it's like, what, the Minions need to learn karate so they can beat up people? The Minions have fart guns and booger bombs. I don't care if they learn karate or not. And they learn karate from Michelle Yeoh, which I guess makes sense because she was in Everything Everywhere All at Once. She does some karate in there, so I guess that's probably why they casted her. And the movie just it goes. It has a beginning, it has a middle, and it has an end. I liked the more I liked the sort of more sparse plot of the first movie compared to the more structured plot of the second, because the second movie, it was just more trite. You know, I wasn't feeling it. And when I'm watching Minions 2, Rise of Gru 2, I wanted just a little bit more. I wanted just a little bit more. So you're probably itching to hear what my final review score for the Minions 2 Gru when he was 2. A 2. I'm giving it a 2. We're giving Minions 1 5. Minions 2, I'm giving it a 2. Because the second act started, I was just bored. Yeah, I don't know. Quentin Tarantino. He was being really mean to. In my head, I was thinking Paul Rudd. He was not saying anything mean about Paul Rudd. I don't know why Paul Rudd came into. Oh, because he was being mean to Paul Dano. Well, not Paul Rudd. Paul Dano. Is his name Paul? Matthew Dano? Paul Dano. Is his name Paul Dano? His name. The more I say it, the more it doesn't sound right. Is his first name Paul? Like Paul from Dune? Paul Dano. The more I say it, the more I feel like that is not that actor's name. Anyways, he was being really mean to him. I don't know why. He's a really good actor. I liked him in The Batman. I liked him in There Will Be Blood. I liked him in Prisoners. He was in other movies too. Paul Dano. His name is Paul Dano. The more I let it sit for a little bit, and that sounds right now that I think about it. So that's all the gossip that I have for you here today. I don't know if there's anybody in the chat right now, but if there is, I want you to take those little fingers of yours, those teeny tiny little fingers, itsy bitsy little thingies that you got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I want you to type. I want you to clack on your little phone keyboard or your computer keyboard, and I could be very well talking to 0 people right now, and I wouldn't know. I don't have it pulled up. If there's anybody here, do you want to first look at the All For One fan art, character art piece, do a little work on that, or would you like to watch me draw some legs? I know it's hard. It's very hard. And if no one answers within the next 30 seconds, I'm just gonna draw some legs. You can see the All For One piece at some other point. Or if you want to watch me draw legs, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. I need a moment to stop and enjoy life and sip on coffee. The reason I'm acting so erratic is because I'm drinking this coffee right now. And I'm normally not supposed to have caffeine past 12 p.m. because it messes with my sleep. And I care a whole lot about my sleep. They say if you don't get good sleep, well, let's just say there's a special place in HE double hockey sticks for you. Yeah, and I don't make the rules. It's the big man that makes the rules. I'm just here to relay them to you. Okay, I think it's been about 30 seconds. We're gonna draw some legs right now. So I'm gonna move. This is my little microphone. Hello, say hello, microphone. Say hello to my cat that's sitting right here behind me. We're moving my microphone over here. But I'll give you a flash of what you're missing by not seeing the character art piece right off the bat. You ready for this? You ready for this? It looks really bad right now because it's like the first sketch. Like I'm gonna do another sketch pass to clean it up, and then we're gonna go to like the final inking. But this is what we have right now. Oh, it kind of looks a little scary. So the trapezius here is good, but I need to fix it right here, which is like whatever. I need to add his like pants right here. He has like a flowy sort of fabric skirt. I need to tweak the head because the head, I don't know what that was. I need to tweak the head. I think the jaw needs to be a little bit more narrow, and I think the trajectory of the jaw doesn't quite work here. So I need to figure that out. I think I need to shrink the jaw a little and sort of shrink the side of the head, if that makes sense. I think we're seeing too much of the side of the head right here. That, and I need to figure out what to do with the background. I was thinking doing this up here as sort of like black or like maybe textured with some like hatching, and then this down here to sort of be like clouds, kind of, or some like smoke. Yeah. Yeah, that's what's going on. That's what's going down. Why am I fumbling so much? We're in Fumbletopia today, it seems. All right. Time to show off. We're going to be drawing some legs in this sketchbook, mainly just because I have 70 pages, and I'm on the 36 pages right now, and I need to fill that out. I'm thinking once I hit 40 pages, I move on to, we do torso. So we do torso, legs. Well, I guess that would be like torso, hips, legs. The feet, I don't care about so much. I think it's a little odd when people learn how to draw feet really, really well. So we're not going to be doing that. So we're gonna ascertain what the feet could possibly look like. But then we're gonna move on to sort of like shoulders and arms, but also kind of like the clavicle and the what's the word for the center here? I know the word. Sternum, clavicle, collarbone, the collarbone, and then this little bit of the collarbone right here. How that all sort of connects. That's what we're going to be doing after we do legs. Let's pop the camera down. Let's show you some good stuff. Okay. Poop poop. Hello. Oh, that was smooth. You've never seen a transition so smooth, and you've never seen a switch up of the camera so not smooth. Look at that. Look at that. Pretty cool, right? Let's get this a little bit more. Yeah, let's show. I can't remember what I did last stream, so I'll just show these off again. Well, I don't think I worked on this at all last stream. I don't know if I even showed it at all. So this is sort of like my notes. Then we're going into practice, looking at shading, looking at shapes, looking at silhouette. Same thing here, where we are looking, you'll see, I guess this is sort of like where my like style and preference sort of comes whenever I'm doing these sorts of things. It's for like things that would be considered bony or maybe like thicker muscles, it's a bit more angular. I think that's a way I like rendering it. And then everything else, it's like you can balance the straight with like the edges, with the round edges. Yeah. When I was drawing these, I didn't care for them much, but when I look back on them, I'm like, okay, they're not so bad. These are freehand, which significantly harder when you're trying to draw stuff like without an undersketch or like several passes of the pencil. But I feel like I did a pretty good job, all things considered. The hardest thing to do is proportion for me. When it comes to the shapes and everything, not so bad, but I feel like I did a pretty good job here. You'll see I draw a lot of men whenever I'm drawing legs because I'm a little nervous when it comes to drawing women when they're not wearing any pants. Here, so normally doing notes from Bridgman, but for this little section right here, we took a look at Tom Foxdraws, who's another artist that I like, but I found some screenshots of his book from Pinterest, and there's some really good stuff in here that pertains to the legs, and it is like Bridgman in that it shows like three-dimensional form and structure underneath. So like with this one right here, we're still looking at the leg, but we're looking at sort of the calves, which are going to be, you know, you have your femur and your fibula, and then the calf sort of wedges above the knee to the back of your femur of your lower or your upper leg, and then it goes down to your lower leg, connects all the way down here, and it's this big mass, and you can see the plane changes. You got one which is small, relatively flat, and then back down again, not as steep. And it depends on if it's flexed or not, which, whatever. And then here we have the hamstrings, which what I find most interesting about the hamstrings is that it connects to this lower portion of the pelvis right here, these two little circular bits. I guess they would, I don't know if they connect like to a singular point insertion wise, but around there. But they connect from your pelvis, not to your femur, your upper leg. They connect all the way down to your lower leg. So literally they like wrap around the calf. So it makes this sort of like hugs it. So when you'll see in a lot of people, I need to see, you can see it a bit right there, but I want to see if I can find it. Yeah, you can sort of see it right there. You can see that you have the hamstrings that go around the insertion of the calf right there, which goes up into the back of the femur. And by showing those wedging forms, it gives it, one, more believability, but two, it lets you overlap forms, you know, because you have hamstrings, but then the calves go in front of that. That's something to pay attention to. Here we have, this is like a little wireframe practice, pencil sketch, going over it with colored pen, and then wireframing the form to show you what's going on here. Trying my best with that. And then this is a freehand, I believe. You can tell it's freehand because I didn't feel like doing this. And the foot looks a little weird. Here we have, I was playing around with the rendering, like how do we render it with pen? And I do like this sort of cross contour hatching thing that I got going on right here. It can be refined a ton, I know, but you know, we're figuring things out, and I quite like this. And then I like just the silhouetting of the leg in the back. It shows, one, that this leg is in the front, but two, it lets this leg stand out a bit more because this one is kind of supplementary, but it's like, you know, it's a leg back there still. Here we have, this is, I guess it's like a freehand because I didn't erase or anything, but I did take a yellow pen and do a rough sketch of the form underneath, and then we went over it with, I believe this is an orange, I don't know, orange or like a red. And yeah, everything's good on this half. I shortened this leg a bit too much compared to the reference, but we can argue that if it's shorter, then it's facing a bit more forward and therefore more foreshortened. So we could do a little bit of lying Here we have a dude. This one was hard because uh, the reference was not oriented like standing up. They were sort of doing like a handstand type deal, and that's a lot harder to do because it sort of gets rid of your sort of your muscle memory of drawing people standing up straight, and it forced me to pay more attention to the actual structure of the legs. So I think I did that in an art class before where I had to draw things, normal everyday objects, but they were upside down. And that forces your brain to consider the actual object rather than just trying to think of the iconography of it in your head. So try that out for yourself if you're struggling with like learning observational drawing. And here we have not freehand, but it's a bit more, the reference photo was a bit more like 3-point perspective, so I don't think I captured that perfectly. This leg is a little bit too small, but just know that in the reference, it's like the camera was down here. You know, it was like on this plane right here looking upwards. That's where we are today. I'm not, is this mean? I'm not gonna show you my reference image because I don't feel like pulling it up. Is that mean? How about this? I'll try you something that'll be fun. If you at home would like to draw legs with me, find your own reference image. That's mean. I'm sorry. I don't mean it in a mean way. I think well, I was about to say something mean again, I think. No, just find your own silly little reference image. I think you will. I think you'll be able to find something that you would like to draw, and then you can sort of draw. Well, it's like we're drawing together. I'm your best friend. Imagine that I am your best friend, and that we are drawing together. And I look at you and I give you a little smile, and I pat you on the back and I say, "Good job. You're doing a good job." It's my pencil, my choice of pencil for today. Oh. I'm putting my headphones on right now to. I'm gonna listen to a little bit of music while I do this. Why is my silly little chat over here is being a little dumb? I'm sorry. Uno momento, por favor. Hello, bestie. Hello, bestie. I'm glad that you were able to make it here to do a drawing with me here today. We're doing some anatomy. Did you see the? Do you want to? Did you watch the stuff that I was showing off, or did you just get in? Because if you want to see everything that I just went over, I mean, I guess you could skip back to earlier in the stream, but I mean, I would be fully willing to show it off again. If not, too, that is also cool. Trying to format OBS is probably one of the most annoying things that I have to do. I know I could set up like scenes for OBS, but oh my gosh. I'm not saying that like I'm lazy, but it's just like technology, man. It just it escapes me. And we all know how I am with when it comes to technology. I fumble way too much, way too often. I guess I'll just have my chat open up on the side over here. You guys get front row seats to me, or I get front row seats to you, actually. Okay, let's do some drawing. Right here, so I'm drawing. It's the same person from earlier, but they're in a different pose. But they're sort of doing the same sort of. They're still. It's the same sort of camera angle. So, if we could imagine, our pelvis is up here, and we're looking up at it. This would be sort of like our pelvis. This would be our center. And that would be like sort of this would be like the pelvis right here. So we have our, our insertions are going to be in here. And then so when it comes to like doing anatomy, you can start in a couple of different ways. You could start with the silhouette, you could start with the gesture, or you could start with just like drawing like just the cylinders and the basic shapes straight off. I'm going to try and do a combination of these things. So I'm going to sort of place these things within a box like this right here. Oh, okay. So this is kind of like the space that the legs are occupying. They don't really go out of these confines all that much. So the front leg is the one here that is, let me see. Well, it looks to be they're both equally bearing the weight, but I feel like the back leg is bearing more of the weight. But we're going to do the front leg since it's in the front. And what I'm seeing here is, if we were to think of this as like our insertion for the leg, this is the gesture. It's coming down. And then the calf right here, it's following the same line of action, but this calf is sort of dominating the silhouette of the leg. And if we're going based on proportion, we have the insertion, the foot down here. We'll say to like the ankle. That's about halfway. This is where our knee is going to be. It's falling more in the center of our figure though, that knee. So it's going to fall right around right there. And then for this back leg, we're not going to worry too much about sort of the structure of it yet, but we do want to show that the line of action, the gesture, follows a similar thing. It sort of comes back a little bit, and then it curves back in again. That's our heel. And then the foot sort of goes back here and comes in between, behind that right there. If you have any questions, this makes sense to me, but if you have any questions from me, we'll, feel free to ask. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show we're going to do some simple shapes for our legs. I'm just going to sort of follow that right there, because the leg camera is low, so it's very much so like flat, like on like a level plane, so there's not going to be much curve here or there. Up here there's some curve because we're looking up at it, but from right here, not so much. We're imagining a taper. Same thing for this right here, but because here's the fun thing with like your tibia and fibula, they sort of like they curve in a little bit, so we can sort of show that with this being like the shin, like your shin bone. It's a line that comes down from your knee. The knee is sort of like right here. It's a little triangle with a tendon in front of it, like that. Like that, right there. And up here, because, you know, we see our insertion of the leg right here, there's some glutes behind that, sort of, which we can make larger or smaller depending on how we want to feel. I feel like because we're looking up at it that they would feel a little bit more accentuated. It comes down. And because this person doesn't have a lot of muscular definition, the legs are sort of going to be very what's the word? They're gonna be very smooth. It's not gonna be very like lumpy. You would see on a very muscular person, you would see a lot of definition of the different body parts. But when someone's skinnier and like doesn't have as much muscle, we don't see those distinctions as much. I should be sharpening my pencil too, but I'm too lazy. Remember, I am way too lazy. Normally you can see the calf from the front of you can see the calf from the front, which you can with this person, but it's not well defined, so there's not a big transition from the shin to like the calf muscle behind it, so we're not gonna accentuate that too much. Big toe is like right there. Yeah, we're not here to render feet. I'm not a feet kind of artist, so that's all that we're gonna get. Let's go ahead and erase some stuff in order to give us some more clarity on like what's going on here. I probably could have pushed the gesture of this a little bit more. You know what I mean? Like, sort of like bring this out a little bit more. But I'm gonna see if maybe I can sort of keep the gesture of this a little bit more rigid, and then maybe if I can compensate by like the gesture of this back foot just a little bit more. That makes sense. I think we could sort of widen the quads just a little bit here. Maybe show some angle a bit for that transition from the joint, you know? Straighten that out a little bit. Just show some structure underneath. Maybe bring the calf out just a little bit more. Bring it back in a little bit. The transition of my reference from this point onwards is not too egregious, but I'm gonna exaggerate it a little bit just to show the gesture a little bit more right there. Like in my reference, the transition is more like this. It's like boom, like that. But I'm sort of making it a bit more angular here. This would be their knee. Their knee is a bit more. It's got a bit more of a cap on it. And for this, like, we can sort of just. So here's the thing with like drawing like legs or I guess anything that's in like the background. We don't have to give it as much detail as sort of that front thing because it's sort of not our focal point. So we can. So like that. We don't have to give it as much attention. Actually, a bit more lowered. I'm trying to like over gesture. I'm over gesturing it. I don't know why I got too crazy. I noticed I could have pushed it a ton, but I'm just pushing it just a little bit, just a teensy little bit. That works. That works for me. This person's wearing like spandex. We can show it by doing some curves around the edges that it's wrapping around the form. Wrapping forms, cross contours show off, well, form. The glutes are always so hard for me. It's just because like there's such like larger muscles and you get the medialis and then the maximus behind that. Sometimes it's just hard to sort of figure that out. That was a bad line. A lot of my process when it comes to like drawing anatomy, it's a lot of like laying down lines and then it's like a lot of like erasing on top of that. Um, Mainly it's just trying to figure out that everything is like looking correct, you know? Sometimes you have to like stand back and like squint at it a little trying to figure it out. I'm also holding my pencil out in front of me as like a plumb line in order to figure out where our straights are. Like for this right here, I'm trying to figure out this straight line right here. The glutes should line up with the heel, which means that I could probably do with sort of pushing the heel out just a little bit more. Like that. Because the heel is pushed out a little bit more, that means that I can sort of We're de-thickifying the figure. Apologies. No, let's do some inking. I feel like that's good. Never let anyone tell you that like your first pass of any piece of art has to be perfect. You should be doing a lot of passes, and it's not going to look amazing your first go around. You should try and start off awful and then work your way towards improvement. And then maybe in the future, one day, you'll start producing masterpieces without any second thought. But to begin with, you should work through it. Art is like 80% problem solving and like 20% like technical execution. You know? You know? So here's what I like to do for inking currently. Could be very well to change. I'm starting with a finer tipped pen, and I'm gonna sort of give a lighter pass for the outside. Then in certain parts where I feel it necessary, I like to do a little double line action. Maybe that's to show movement, maybe that's to show shadow facing down. That's just how I like doing it. Or maybe we could use the double lines to show that it's a different material. Maybe that it's not organic. Let it speak to you. So that's one leg down, one foot down. We do have this sort of little deal right here. We don't want to show too many creases, especially when we're working with like pen and ink. Because if you show too many like little creases, it can end up looking like wrinkles and it can be kind of like unflattering. So we don't want to do too much of that. Taking a little bit of a lighter hand with this back heel. Being a bit more scratchy. This back leg. Because it's in the background, you know, we don't care too much about it being like ultra detailed. It can be a little bit more scratchy. We will let it be a little bit more scratchy. Coffee break. We're done with the coffee break. What an amazing coffee break. What would we rate that coffee break? I would rate it like a 2. That was an alright coffee break. Okay, now that we have that pass over with, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to switch to a slightly thicker pen, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do more outline stuff, doing darker lines wherever I see fit or necessary. We're going to work on sort of defining outlines and shadows, and we can sort of have a lighter hand or a darker hand and pressing harder or softer wherever we need to. Like here, I think I'm going to go hard. I'm going to bring it up to be a bit more soft. Same thing with here. It doesn't look like much, but I swear there's a bit of a difference there. Same thing with here. We can darken the sort of the shorts a little bit. Then when it comes to this, we're gonna light or heavy to light it. Maybe do a bit of a taper there. A lot of the magic in this pose comes from this little negative space that's being left right here. You see what I mean? Like that little space right there in between the legs. That does a lot for like the eye. So here's where we could do a lot with like the cross contouring. I'm thinking that I can do some like some very light cross contours. If I sort of like follow, if I'm thinking of like the leg as sort of like a square, you know, it's like if we're thinking about like facing planes, it's like the top of the thigh would be like that, and then the side of it would be like that right there, and that's what we're seeing here. We're seeing sort of facing away, and then maybe we can do a little bit right there to show that there's a plane change going the other way. And as we arrive closer to where our theoretical horizon line is, these lines are going to start flattening out a little bit. So we're easing with that transition here. And because there's so many lines, it's like we don't have to be perfect. Also, this is just a sketch, so duh, we don't have to be perfect, but we can sort of fake the transition just a little bit. And then once we get here, Because the calf is not that big and sort of facing away from us, just little ticks. You can maybe show... You could show a bit of the shin right here, rounding. Kind of like a tree trunk. There's a bit of roundness going on there. Same thing with this bit of the calf right here. It's like... just show that there's a little bit of a plane change happening right there. This also isn't... Don't like think like my rendering here is like... has any like tried or true method. It actually doesn't. What I'm really doing is doing trial and error sketching. I'm trying to figure out what my style is for this. I feel like for here I could sort of maybe show a little bit more. I know I said little ticks, but I want to show a little bit more. It sort of tapers off towards the end there. Right. For the back, keeping it scratchy. I see a lot of artists I like do that, where they'll do stuff that's in the background and they'll sort of like de-emphasize it by doing just like simple hatching like that. Show a little bit more of the foot topology. Right? What do you got? I guess I didn't ask at the beginning of the stream. Like, this is very rude of me, but what do you guys think about Minions 2? Do you think Minions 2 is actually the most goated, underrated movie of our generation? Or is it really just another flop? Because, like, I don't know, maybe I'm, like, a little bit biased. Like, maybe my love of Minions 1, like, is clouding my ability to love Minions 2 Electric Gru Boogaloo, but I'm not quite sure. I'm just doing contour like hatching marks here. This isn't really rooted in any like philosophy. I really am kind of just I am just going with the contour, but I'm making it a bit messy to kind of show that it's like a fabric. I find like one of the pros with working with like pen and ink is that you really are able to like emphasize texture with hatching, because you can turn like just like what would normally be just like a plain flat sort of texture, you can sort of give it a little bit of flavor, a little bit of by doing like a little bit of like hatching. If you guys don't mind, I'm gonna go refill on my coffee. Use this as an opportunity to sit back, or I guess no, don't sit back. Stand up and do a little bit of stretching. Stretch a little. Look at a picture. Look outside, or look at a picture of outside if you can't do that. But I will be right back. I'm gonna do a little stretch, and then I'm gonna get some more coffee. So I will. Oh, I will. I will see you guys back here in just a moment. All right, I am back, kings, queens, and they thems, they themes. Uh, I just remembered that I have my colored pens. I'm gonna try overlaying some of these colored pens on here just to mess around, just to see what's up. But we're just doing a little bit of erasing to get that underdrawing off. I need a brush. I see artists whenever they do like inking and they do the erasing afterwards, they have a little brush. I need one of those. Color wise, I'm thinking, damn, what if I did orange? We're gonna do orange. I feel like orange would be the good color here. Make sure I'm centered. Yeah, centered enough. Psh. Know what I mean? I have 20 things up. I desperately need a second monitor. I'm just gonna go through, this might ruin it, but I'm just gonna do some hatching. Maybe not hitting the same hatch marks exactly, but wondering if that'll like give it some dimension. I don't know. Cross contours are so hard to so hard to do sometimes. You know what I'm saying? I'm wondering if like muddying it up with like a different color helps at all. A little bit, it's like visual noise to like distract a bit from like everything else that's going on here. And then for this back here, we can do, this is what a lot of hatchers do. They don't do a 45 or a 90-degree angle, they hit it at like a 45-degree angle. So you're not making squares, you're making a series of these like little triangles. Now, if I wasn't doing this in color, I would probably be hitting it with like a pen with gray ink, you know? Because like value-wise, it's still accomplishing the same thing, you know? Cool. I'm happy with that. Could even just dark, I could like darken. I don't even need a pen for this, I can just like darken it a little bit with that to help like unify it a little. Mixed media, it's a joy. That fun or what? See, this is like where all like my practicing last sketchbook, if you want to see it, there's a short of it on my channel. But this sort of reminds me of like doing all of those like shape and like cross contour practices on my last sketchbook. You know what I mean? That's kind of what this was preparing me for, is like sort of understanding things that I'm drawing in terms of like three-dimensional forms, not just shapes. Of course, we can do shape design, but we could also do shape design first, form second. And then after you do forms, you can jump back into shape design. You can say, okay, I like this shape and I like this form. Maybe let's push the shape a little bit more. You can do really anything you want. Kind of like what I want to do right now is I kind of want to push this a little bit more. So we're going to pass it over again. That's it. And we're going to do the same here, but we're going to sort of like maybe taper it just a little bit more. So when it gets there, it sort of like melds in a little bit more. And I think same thing for this right here. We're going to do this thick, 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 and then we're going to sort of gradually taper off. Isn't that fun? Isn't it fun to try and like develop like a thing? Speaking of developing a thing, I know I said I was going to draw some legs some more. I think I'm going to pull up my all for one thing, and I'm going to chip away at it a bit. I have finished all of my coffee. Hallelujah. I should date this. What day is it today? 13th? Let's get this up right here. Oh, for a second I was like, I have it upside down. I thought like my thing was turned upside down, but it's not. I'll show you some of the things I've been working on. These are freehands. These are not freehands. Proportions are wonky. Forgive me. More stuff. I've been drawing a lot of legs because legs are very complicated, and I have a lot of like, a lot of issues, like trying to, because there's so many muscles. It's like I've been drawing them for a while to just try and get them right. No, if I've shown, no, I did show these off because this was from, yeah, this was from last week's stream. All of these. Yeah, here's where we were last week, or after last week. Here's what I did. So it's like we have the main sketchbook for anatomy, and then I've been using this as sort of like my vomit sketchbook. So it's a lot of different things. Here's this pose that I was trying to like pay closer attention to realism, and then I was breaking down, trying to simplify it to like a different like head. We have some more portraits. These are trying to be more Kim Jong-gi, you know, so you're seeing a lot more bigger eyes, but they're very simplified, lots of gaps. But you're also seeing a lot of roundness of features. It's definitely fun to do. Yeah, not much else to say about those, really. Here we have so this is a Kim Jong-gi, but I'm like taking the pose and sort of like taking bits of it, but I'm like adding other things onto it, you know. I'm not doing like a one-to-one copy. Here's when I was drawing this, I was just kind of like messing around. I was like, hey, that kind of reminds me of a Dream mask, so I pulled up the photo of the face reveal of Dream. That's an artistic rendition of Dream from his face reveal, and I got his iconic chin that he for some reason juts out like a crazy amount. And here's the sort of the preliminary studies that I did for the All for One piece. These, they're not even like studies, they're just like really light sketches. Uh, this one is like the most original one. These are sort of like screenshots from the anime, but this one right here is like I took the pose and then I took several references and I sort of figured out what is it I wanted to do, kind of, and we're sort of going for a vibe. So this is kind of like the energy that I had sort of thought out. You can see that right there. I put his mouth open to sort of like do this little bit right here a little, which is why I was like, I need to point his chin out a bit more. It looks too flat like this, and I want it to be a bit pointier to show that he's maybe looking down a little bit more instead of like just like head on. But what I'll do is I'll finish this up and then I'll take this entire sheet out, put another sheet on top of it, tape them together, and then go on my light board and then do another pass. And it's sort of like if you were to have a digital drawing medium, then you would sort of like lasso tool and move, but we're just gonna do that traditionally. Yeah. So here's what I need to do specifically for this fella. Hello, you're right there. That's where you're hearing me from. So I did a lot of circling to sort of like try and like think of the composition. So let me walk you through like what I was thinking with the composition. So this guy's a villain, right? So he's traditionally in America, at the very least in the good old Eitazuni, we read from left to right. So we expect a lot of sort of action to like happen diagonally from like left to right to show progress. But because All for One is a bit of a villain, he is a villain, like to the max. But because All for One is like the worst of the worst, we're showing him going from right to left. So that's a deliberate composition choice on my behalf. So diagonal because it's like it's energy, you know, he's flying through the air. We're showing off that aspect of this right here. This is supposed to be like mid-battle. This is also a younger All for One. Why is he young? Watch the anime, read the manga. I'm not gonna spoil it here. Figure it out for yourself. Maybe I could push it a bit more down here, but this is just what we had. I altered the original sketch to have his arms sort of out a little bit more, and this is to, we're gonna have his hands. You saw in like this little sketch right here, he's gonna sort of have his hands faced out and sort of like Claude. He has a little hole in his hand, so we'll be sure to show that. But he's sort of gonna be like, I don't know, like he's like about to like lift something up. I kind of want to like display him as sort of like being kind of feral, because he kind of would be in this moment. So yeah, what I would want to do here is I think I would want to probably like, let me just flatten out the jaw all the way and sort of like bring it in a little bit more. Same with this side. I don't want to point it out a little bit more. I also need to bring his mouth and sort of work it in a little bit more. It's too wide at the bottom, I think. And then I'm thinking for like his like shoulder caps are here. I'll probably do what we were doing right now when we were drawing the anatomy, is I'll probably end up drawing some hatching in order to show just a little bit of form right there. Same thing with like his neck right here, because I don't want it to be like just like perfectly clear. And I can probably like show off some like dirt and stuff by like doing that. Some scars, maybe. You know, like that. So I'm thinking that for for him. Also, like I know his like pecs seem a little bit big right here, but I was this pose is supposed to be a little exaggerated using like a focal length that is supposed to like make things that are closer appear bigger and things that are further away to be a bit smaller. So that's kind of what's going on here. So if he was like holding his like hand out, it would be like this right here, you know? He would be sort of like maybe I could like point his hand like down a little bit more, but it would really be sort of like a you know. Kind of like that. I don't need to lock in like the hand uh the the hand placement all that much, you know, until like the very end, but like, you know, I guess it's good to sort of like start to get a idea of what it's gonna look like there. Those fingers are doing weird things. We're not gonna worry too much about it right there. Maybe I need to like point them up a little bit more. Maybe I can make them a little bit smaller because you know we're doing a lot of like foreshortening when it comes to this right here. So it's like we don't need to adhere too much to like strict physical proportion, you know? All right, here's an interesting thing that we got to do. We have to sort of like make his sort of like robe. And because he's flying sort of like at a diagonal like this right here, we got to show off that he has legs underneath, you know what I'm saying? But we also have to show that he has like this like cloth like thing. I don't want to draw it too much like here. This might be something that I need to like really like think of like a lot. See, I could make it so here's Peter Hahn whenever he's doing like fabrics and stuff like that. He sort of it sort of looks like a lot of like nonsense, but there's like a direction of flow. So I'm thinking of like going that way. You know what I mean? I see him use a lot of like these like square type shapes. It's like he's wearing like a skirt. I know his arm is just gonna show a little bit of connection right here. It's like we could show a little bit of, you know, that this little stuff right here. Yeah. These figures are not perfect. That's okay. I'm probably gonna rotate the hand a little bit more in the final bit. Watch this. Look, we're artists. We could do whatever we want. His thumb would be facing the other way, though, would it not be? Look at that. Because we're artists, we're allowed to do that. Probably like going a little bit more like that. It's a really good hand. So we're looking at his foot from like the top. It's gonna be a lot of curving from his sort of, because we're looking down and there's a bit of like a twist in the leg. Look, and his foot could be down there like that. And I'm thinking like down here, it's like we're gonna have like clouds, you know? So it's gonna be a lot of like, it's gonna be a lot of like this shape. And then I'm thinking maybe for like the darkness here, it's like I could have it, see, I could have it as sort of like vertical hatching, which could be fun, but I could also like go for more, because like the line of action is sort of like pointed to the right here. It's like I could do just a ton of like this, you know what I mean? But I'll like group it into bits. So for this arm right here, I feel like it's too long, so I would bring it back a little bit more. I gotta remember, like, we're doing some foreshortening right here, so it's like, that's an amazing hand, by the way. Oh my god. Who let me cook? Who let me cook? Did you let me cook? Did you let me cook? So yeah, I feel like this needs to be shortened a bit. So we would bring this in a little bit more, kind of like that, right there. Point it a little bit more. Same thing with like this side right here. You know, definitely bring the ear in. I think we should add some more waves to the hair at some point. I think that would end up working pretty well. When it comes to these lines right here, also I've seen, so I don't know if I need to like run lines through them or if I need to sort of like give them breaks, or if I just need to like do like little tick marks like that. I feel like, oh, that might be actually, that might actually be it. Maybe I just need to be doing like directional hatching like that instead of like having full lines like that right there, like maybe that could help a little bit showing off. And that would, ooh, yeah, actually, that would actually help quite a bit with sort of like the face is the focal point. We don't want to distract too much from the lines going on down here. So it's like we could use that hatching to our advantage to sort of like sway the focal point a bit. So he has a hole in his hand right there, so he can shoot pee out of it. That's not actually it. But if you've never seen My Hero Academia, then you know you could I could say that and you would be none the wiser. See, I'm thinking like we could like do like a little bit of form wrapping right here. So that way it's not just a big mass of, you know, of muscles. And it sort of like breaks up. I don't know, something to consider. I'll definitely play around with that on the next Passover. It's not much of a hand. Again, it's not much of a hand. I'm doing this from like imagination. So yeah, I'm definitely thinking with like the fabric right here, this is where I need to sort of like make things a little bit more hectic, a little bit more wild. Maybe I could like, let me push this up a little bit more for you. It would be easy to do a footsie down there. Sort of get blocked off by his calf. And because everything's going to be sort of like whipping in the wind, we can make it a bit more chaotic because it's like, you know, if you're like wave like a flag in the wind, it's going to be going like crazy stupid. We can even show that there's a bit of a like that the leg is underneath here. We can maybe show it with some hatching. There's this tiny little foot down there. And then we'll probably end up, because this is all going to be like sort of like clouds, I'm going to just go ahead and this will be smooth compared to what's going on down here. And I'm thinking we do throw in some more continuous sort of rounded lines. Oh no, I smudged a bit with my hand. Oh no. That's okay. So whenever I do the final ink, I will have like a sheet of paper here so I can like make sure things do not smudge. Does that work? I mean, I don't know if it's giving clouds. Maybe I need to like think of a different way to do that. I'll have to think about that. Maybe that's not the perfect way to do that. But definitely, oh, that right there is going to be a game changer. I think. Could even like do some light like hatching like that right there. Show that, you know. Another thing like doing like the cross contouring here also accomplishes is it makes it kind of look like he's got like striations. Uh he's got like some striations happening in his chest, which would make sense because he is like kind of juiced. Well, he's not like juiced in like the traditional sense. He's juiced in the fact that like he's like turning younger, so it's like he's becoming a bit more sort of like impulsive and monstrous, and we could sort of like maybe show off some of that with like striations. That makes sense. Same thing with like we could show a bit of like the cross contouring. I mean, it's rough right now with this right here, but I'm kind of just trying to get the, we know sort of the clavicle forms like a little indentation right there. That could be good. And again, that adds a little bit of like visual like intrigue and interest, you know? Yeah, I'm thinking what I need to do down here is maybe leave the wavy lines on the outside there, but keep the wavy ones on the inside like not there, because that's gonna sort of distract from the silhouette of this right here. You know, you dig? I'm only gonna do a small section of like what I'm picturing here because I don't want to sit here and like waste all of my ink on just the sketch, but I'm gonna do a little bit of it up here so you can sort of show you what I'm thinking about when it comes to sort of the directional thing. So I'm thinking like of like literally just like layering up. So it'll be black, right? It will be dark to show off the silhouette of the white hair and everything, but it won't just be pitch black. There will be some texture to it. And it's important that I group everything together, but I sort of like sandwich everything together and sort of like alternate it a bit so I don't get just a line all the way through. And yeah, what we'll do is like we'll keep on layering this together. I think maybe we can start a few out here. And I'll probably do a few passes of this to darken it up a ton. Like, it won't just be like one layer. I'll probably like go back over again and sort of, because I want it to be dark value wise. But again, I don't want it to be just like pitch black. And we can go out of the margins a little bit. That's why I have them there. Also, I am running low on ink on this pen, so that means that we are getting close to the end of the stream. Yeah, I think that could work out very nicely. That would give this a like a good amount of texture that I feel like we were missing. I'll definitely need to... Yeah, this is a little too distracting. I think also in the show, this little drapery bit right here is also black. So I might very well be able to just go in and sort of like do contour marks. Ooh, yeah. Because I could layer that up as well. So I could still like give it the silhouette of being fabric, but I could also be sort of like flowy. I could play around with the contours to sort of give it... Yeah, that's the sauce right there. Thank you to everybody watching this for giving me these amazing ideas, even though I am just talking to myself. These are some really good ideas. So yeah, I'm gonna take some post-it notes and put them on here after the stream to sort of just remember what I need to fix. So I need to narrow the head, fix the trapezius right here, sort of indent a little bit more, bring it out. I think the legs are perfect. I don't want them to be crazy detailed because they're not the focal point. This hand needs to be rotated out more. This one, I feel like the arm needs to be brought in more because this hand right here, it's like, it's hard to show. I'll point the camera at myself. It's as if the arm is sort of like tucked in. Oh my god, you can't really see me. It's like if the arms are, they're sort of going to be tucked in like this right here. So if you were looking at me from a top view, my arm wouldn't be out right here. They would sort of be in a little bit more. So it's like we would need to bring the arm inwards more, if that makes sense. I want to bring this in more, kind of like this one right here, to show that that arm is tucked in. I've already messed up. Okay, the framing on this. So yeah, that's the prelim sketch right here. I need to fix the mouth, the head. I think the eyes need to be a little bit more in line. Like if I was gonna take a ruler across like the length of the face, like this eye needs to be brought down a little bit more. And like the peaks of them don't really match up all that Well, yeah, because if we're looking at the ear lining up at the top of the eye, yeah, I feel like the eyes need to sort of like, this one needs to be brought down a little. That's another thing that I'm going to fix on my next go around. And then we'll have an amazing sort of like mediocre piece of like fan art. It's going to be like original, which is like what I'm most excited for, because it's like I could just like draw like a panel directly from the manga, but it's like, where's the fun in that? You know? I think, you know, we should play around with sort of like the original the original pose. You know, let's make mistakes. Let's make mistakes. Let's problem solve. Let's do all the things that art is meant to to do. Let's mess around. Let's proverbially mess around. All right. Turning my headphones off now. Like my cat sleeping right there. Pepper. Pepper. Say hi. He's mean to me. He's so mean to me. Okay, well, it has been a blast, everybody. I have had... Did you just get taller? Did you just get taller? It's like you're looking down on me. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for watching this amazing, amazing stream. I'm glad that we could talk about Minions. I'm glad we could talk about not much else. I'm glad we could talk about art. It's been a lot of fun. Will I see you next week? I don't know. It depends on how I'm feeling. I might not always stream on Saturdays from here on out. I'm thinking just whenever the urge arises, I'll pop in the Discord and I'll say, hey, I'm going to be streaming later. And then I'll stream for an hour or two. Yeah, I like this format a lot more. I like being a bit more casual about it. And I hope that you all liked it too. If you would like to join a community of like-minded artists, please, the Discord link is in the description of this video. If you liked what you saw here and you want to see more, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Reach out to me directly if you wanna. Like, I don't even know what I'm getting at. If you want to ask me questions, or if you want to just say like show your support, you can do that as well. But you could start with a subscribe, or if you're like feeling like really feisty, you could even leave a comment on this stream, and I will read it and I will respond to you. And you have my word. So I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna have some chicken and rice for dinner, and then I think I'm gonna play some Arc Raiders with my friends, and we're gonna go to Stellamontis, and we're gonna do a lot of PvP. I think that's what the rest of my night is going to look like. So I hope that all of you will watch both Minions movies and every movie with Paul Dano in them. Paul Dano, that is his name. Yeah, go ahead and give Minions 1 and 2, Rise of Gru a watch, because those are genuinely, well, not genuinely, the first one's an alright movie, but the second one is kind of just bleh. Go ahead and give them a watch, and let me know what you think about them. Comment on this.